Hey guys. Checking everything's okay. Yeah, I thought I'd do a quick stream. Been a few weeks. Interesting time as well. See what everyone's up to and yeah, take a look at a few bits and pieces. Crypto not doing too badly in the last sort of week, but the Chinese stocks are tumbling. Starting to recover now, it seems. Yeah. Come along, drop any questions or comments in the chat. Say hi. Yeah, they're starting to rise back now, it seems. 10 cent was down sort of 8 or 9%, I think, earlier on. Interesting, the crackdown from the Chinese government, though. Some of this stuff seems to be sort of fairly justified, really. People sort of paint it as just the Chinese going mad at all the tech companies, but I think there's some of this stuff is sort of things that would have happened in the UK or the US if that was the case, sort of cracking down on monopolies and yeah, sort of antitrust regulations and that sort of thing. It's not all that different to sort of the Americans cracking down on the big tech giants every now and then. Yeah, crypto looking not too bad. Had a nice little move yesterday. Seems to be mainly the larger cap coins. As you sort of go down, it's not doing quite as well, but that's always the way. Bitcoin tends to lead. But yeah. Amazon rumours, it seemed, caused a short squeeze yesterday. Got anybody in the chat? Not quite yet. Yeah, so there seemed to be rumours. There was a couple of insider articles come out sort of saying Amazon were sort of hiring someone. I think they are looking to hire someone, but people took that as they were looking to sort of accept crypto, almost immediately, which I did sort of think at the time was a little bit optimistic. But yeah, they've sort of backed away from that a little bit and said they're looking into it, but they're not making any immediate moves, which is fair enough. So yeah, it seems to have come down a little off the back of that. But yeah, had a little rise and sort of obviously about 3,000 above sort of at the weekend, so can't really complain too much about that. Had a little bump from the video at the weekend. Still looking at the stock to flow as well. We are still quite a way under the sort of model level. People are still saying it's broken, it's pointless and all that. I still think it's got some merit. This was obviously plotted a long while ago, so it's not going to follow it absolutely rigidly, but yeah, sort of what happened before, it lagged the line a little and sort of went past, shooting past what the model had shown. So if the same sort of happens again, we could be looking for an end of year pump up to new highs and hopefully sort of 100k. Might go a little bit above that and sort of come back down for a 2022 bear market. That's sort of the original theory. Could be getting a lengthening cycle, as some people are sort of discussing. Benjamin Cowan, I know, sort of big believer in that, thinks, I guess, we may sort of rise a bit and sort of go a bit up and down, maybe even through 2022, and sort of maybe pump up to new sort of all-time highs and maybe a new high mid-2022, maybe late 2022 even. So yeah, different theories out there, certainly. But yeah, still doesn't seem a bad model. I think, I can't remember when this exactly was done. It's obviously wasn't done at the start here and then, you know, predicted that all of this. It's sort of a back-tested model. But yeah, it's been reasonably sort of well predictive so far. Anyone in chat? Hello, Josh. You alright? Hello, Andrew. What are your thoughts on XDC? It's not one I've seen. Is that, I presume that's a crypto. XFin Network. It was in the top 100. I've not seen anything about it. It's on a few exchanges by the looks of it. Not quite all of them, but yeah, sort of reasonable amount of volume. Yeah, I don't really know what it does though. DeFi, smart contracts, master nodes. I mean, there's a lot of these coins really. It's sort of a little bit of a gamble to try and sort of pick the winners from the small caps. It's an enterprise-ready hybrid blockchain optimized for international trade and finance. So you're potentially going up against a few players there, sort of XRP maybe, and possibly even Stellar. Architects to support smart contracts, 2,000 transactions a second, 2-second transaction time, KYC to master nodes. Yeah, I mean, I've not sort of seen a huge deal about it, but yeah, it could be one of the ones that does well. We'll see. Have to read up a little bit more about it. If you let us know what you've read about it, yeah, I could certainly take a look. I do have quite a few coins that I'm invested in already. I'm not looking to really add too much. I mean, you can't have them all, obviously. There's hundreds, sort of, even in the non-penny stock ones. But yeah, even outside of that, obviously there's thousands that people say are going to do well, make it big and all that kind of thing. I've sort of made my bed with what I've picked now, and obviously I'm looking to sort of get out towards the end of this year, maybe sort of into first quarter 22. If that gets me enough to sort of semi-retire at least, then I'll probably be largely out of crypto, sort of keeping some back for if it goes bananas. But yeah, I'm not looking to invest in sort of too many small cap ones anymore. Yes. I've been having a look at Tencent's sort of interesting stock portfolio recently. See, they own sort of quite a great deal of stuff now. A lot of people don't know their sort of stakes in people like Tesla and NIO. So owning 5% of Tesla is quite an investment there. But yeah, things like 7.5% of Spotify, and it's sort of all outside of their gaming side. Then you look at Tencent's gaming holdings. A lot of people know about Epic Games. They own 40% of them. But yeah, sort of other stuff like 5% of Activision Blizzard, 5% of Ubisoft. So a lot of people do say some of these companies are almost like an ETF. Do kind of see where they're coming from. 12% of Snapchat. And this is on top of, these are companies that they only have a stake in. Obviously they own some companies outright, like Riot Games, maker of League of Legends. So yeah, on top of this, they own quite a few companies outright. So very interesting company. So with the sort of latest drops, I think it's dropped sort of over 15% between today and yesterday. And yeah, you're getting sort of all of these companies that haven't really dropped quite as much at a reasonable discount. So Activision Blizzard hasn't gone down 15% in the last 2 days. So you're buying up that sort of very small stake at sort of 15% less than last week at least. So yeah, just can't see there's all that much to be worried about with the Chinese sort of crackdowns. Long term, the country's sort of tipped to do well. The Chinese growth is still a lot stronger than a lot of other countries, and the sort of growing middle class in China, sort of reducing poverty over time. A lot of these people will sort of be having more disposable income. They'll want to be sort of gaming and spending on their e-commerce platforms, and so I just think Tencent and Alibaba should do well. And also got Baidu as my sort of smaller cap Chinese tech stock. Strange to think they are only sort of 55 billion. They do get talked in the same breath generally as Tencent and Alibaba, but they're sort of a tenth of the market cap. Obviously, they don't have the revenue or profit as those other two, but certainly have a lot of potential. The sort of self-driving car side and sort of AI health side potentially as well as their search engine and sort of Google-like business. Yeah, I do think this is an interesting one. Andrew, have we seen DAG? I haven't. Is it another small cap crypto? Or a tech stock? presume that is that. Constellation. Rank 148. So I do have 3 sort of outside the, well, 3 or 4 outside the top 100 in the sort of 100 to 200 range. So I'm not completely averse to it, but yeah, again, it's not one that I've read a lot about. Don't say a huge amount about it. Been around a couple of years though, 3 years now. Not a great deal of volume though. And a lot of total supply compared to how much is out there now. Never normally like to see that really. I guess that means the founders sort of still own quite a lot. So you could end up being sort of diluted with the circulating supply. Not the end of the world, but just sort of I do prefer the coins that are sort of where most of the total supply is out in the wild, so you can't sort of suddenly get dumped on by the founders. Sort of seen some, I bought the small sort of stake in Internet Computer at the weekend, or last week. I'm sort of talking about the venture capitalists. Not a pump and dump, people calling it a pump and dump, I suppose it is, but they were taking a lot of risk when they were buying back at sort of 3-4 cents. I mean, it might have never amounted to anything and they would have lost all their money, so can't blame them, I guess, for when it opens up they want to sell. Not really right locking out the public from selling, so they were the only ones that can sell. It's a bit shady, obviously, but yeah, you can sort of understand why they would do it. But yeah, so I bought in sort of, seems at the moment, the bottom on that. But no, I can't see too much on this constellation. Josh, any buys recently? No, I'm a little bit dry on cash at the moment. I've sort of been putting pretty much all of my spare cash into crypto over the last month or so. Kind of thought the crypto lull was sort of a better opportunity than most stocks. Yeah, so sort of been buying my sort of Binance and Coinbase small caps, and then went for Internet Computer. But yeah, so no stock buys recently. AVC Trip Reports. Hello, market mover. Good to see you from the Osborne Foreman Discord. Free plug for him. If you want to head over, free Discord. And Craig, what's your thoughts on Boo? I've put Boohoo and ASOS on my watch list. Does sort of seem to be coming down an awful lot, but I was sort of comparing the two recently. Seemed like Boohoo are sort of obviously growing faster, but they're sort of quite similar in market cap, and you seem to be paying obviously a lot more for just the fact that they're growing faster. I mean, I think they're sort of doing 1.7 billion in revenue, not a huge amount of profit, sort of 90 million in profit, where you sort of take ASOS, slower growing company, but sort of over double the revenue, and round about double, just under double the net profit. And yeah, they're sort of what, 400 million market cap more than Boohoo. So obviously Boohoo have got to, even though they are faster growing, they've still got to catch up to what ASOS are doing. If they sort of double their revenue over the next 2-3 years, maybe. I mean, they've been growing. What we got here? They've been growing sort of 30-40% a year. So yeah, sort of nearly 50% there, and then what is that, 30-40%. So yeah, even if they grow sort of 30 or 40% for another 2 years, then they're going to be up to ASOS's revenue and probably similar on the profit. But are they then going to be growing at the same pace that they have been? I doubt it. So yeah, and that's assuming sort of in the next 2 years the market cap barely moves. So yeah, very sort of similar but different businesses. But at the moment, I'd be leaning sort of more towards ASOS at the moment. So 3.37 billion. There's basically no free cash flow there. I guess they're obviously sort of piling it, most of it, back into the business. But have you got EBITDA? Yeah, so 150 million. Yeah, compared to ASOS. ASOS is 270 million, so yeah, a bit of a smaller gap there, but yeah, for sort of only 400 million more of a market cap, just seems to be a lot better. I think the balance sheet looks a little bit better as well. ASOS have got more debt, but yeah, the ASOS got sort of considerably higher equity. So yeah, it just seems like you're paying a lot more for Boohoo for the growth, but it's just, as I say, they've got to grow to ASOS's level and then still be growing at that rate for you to want to sort of pay more, basically. And I'm not sure I can see it. What's my hot coin to look into? Well, I don't know really. I've obviously got quite a few. I mean, if you want a long hold, you could pop for maybe one of the small caps that I bought, sort of internet computer, maybe Cocos, Quonstamp, or one of those, or maybe one of sort of larger caps, OMG network, sort of scaling on Ethereum. Cardano at 90p still seems sort of reasonably good buy. Smart contracts sort of coming up for towards later this year, although they do seem to take an eternity to develop anything and get it out of the door. There's always delays. Yeah, I don't really do hot coins as such. You're not going to get me sort of recommending Shiba Inu and that sort of thing, or Safe Moon. But yeah, I mean, maybe sort of one of my smaller caps would be interesting to look into. You're not going to get sort of the explosive growth on your Bitcoins and Ethereums and that sort of thing, but yeah, some of these small caps have been moving 20, 30, even 40% sort of in a day or two. So yeah, be interesting. Thought you'd drop in market mover. Yes, why not come in? Craig tried to buy SLP this morning on a dip. It was pending for a while. So when you checked, it rebounded by 7%. Yeah, it's I mean, it's not a Sylvania thing in specifically. It's just AIM, the AIM market. It sort of runs on a different sort of exchange. It's the SETQX. I can't remember what the abbreviation is, but pretty much all sort of AIM stocks you're going to sit around and yeah, sort of wait for the buys. You might it might be going down and your buy doesn't fill. It's got to try and fill exactly the amount that you've tried to buy with someone else, where sort of the bigger exchanges, you know, FTSE 100 and S&P 500 and that sort of thing, have loads and loads of market makers, and there's always someone to sort of fill your offer, sell or buy. So yeah, it's a bit more difficult with AIM, but I wouldn't say it's SLP specifically. Boohoo ads everywhere on the London Underground. That's interesting. Yeah, they seem to have the more sort of cool factor than ASOS. Even though ASOS is sort of, I guess, in a bit of a strange position. It's sort of the bigger of the online only guys, but sort of still somewhat cooler than your Top Shops and that sort of thing, even though obviously they've just bought Top Shop, but your more traditional high street brands. Craig, you got 1,200 in Boohoo, but you're down 6%. Yeah, I expect a lot of people are down at the moment. I mean, a lot of things broadly are going down, unless you're in the FANG stocks, the sort of big tech stocks, then I think a lot of things are down really. I've got a few greens still in my portfolio, so overall still up, but that's thanks to a few sort of decent stocks that are holding things up. And the REITs, Andrew, if I had to choose one, crypto or stocks, where's the return in the next 5 years? 5 years is sort of quite a long time period at the moment. As I say, I'm sort of a big believer in crypto, sort of within a year probably hitting the top, and then sort of probably into a long bear market. So yeah, if I had a reasonable amount in crypto, obviously I do, but you know, if it was someone else, it's not advice, but I would be sort of seeing how we go towards the end of the year, and if we're running up, sort of just incrementally taking profit. And yeah, if we get sort of a long pronounced bear market, then you can sort of redeploy that profit at that time. As I say, I'm personally thinking sort of take that profit and put it into whichever stocks are down. So yeah, I wouldn't be sort of all that eager to buy crypto and sort of hold it for 5 years. I think it would probably do well, but you could maybe have a slightly better strategy. So Alex, what's going on with silver today? Yes, I see it's quite a bit down. Gold's not down. Got to remember, I suppose silver's used a lot more in sort of industry. It's not really quite as much of a monetary metal. So you often, when you get a crash in the main markets, we haven't had a crash, we've had a small drop, but yeah, you'll get silver drop as well, because sort of seen as poor outlook for the main economy, and yeah, gold sort of isn't really used all that much in industry. It's really sort of for the monetary side and the sort of hedge side. So yeah, you don't get quite the same moves as you do with silver. Keen on Fresnillo. What's HOC? Hochschild Mining. Yeah, I've seen that a few times. Didn't go for that one in the end, but interesting. 700 million market cap then. Blimey, EBITDA. Pretty high. That's in US dollars. Free cash flow. Yeah, so they look sort of fairly similar to a lot of the other miners. Pretty good value. And yeah, PE ratio I think is a bit off probably on Yahoo. That's not really right. But yeah, if you're going to buy it, I think you've got to be prepared for ups and downs. And yeah, I've seen a lot of people sort of say you'll be, or that was Francis Hunt. I don't know if any of you guys follow him, the market sniper, crypto sniper as well. He's a little bit sort of eccentric at times, but I quite like him. He sort of says, well, you'll be in silver, you'll be wrong for quite a while, and then you'll be very, very right. So it'll just go mad. When gold starts sort of popping, you know, sort of silver may lag a bit and then sort of really rocket up. So you got to be prepared to hold for a reasonably long while. But yeah, I do have fresh Snillo in the other ISA now. Patel, China clamping down on Alibaba. Indeed. Is now a good time to buy. I think $185 is a great entry point. I mean, it could carry on going down. There's nothing to say it won't, but if you're long term, I think it can still be good. I think a lot of the regulations that they're introducing don't really hit Alibaba all that hard. I mean, similar with Tencent, really. Some of the stuff with the sort of music deals obviously going to hit Tencent, but yeah, as the sort of companies overall, I think Alibaba should be fine, and yeah, you're getting a reasonable deal for the growth that's still there. You have to be willing to accept more downside potentially, but yeah, long term should be all good. I'm hoping it, partially sort of maybe a bit selfishly hoping it carries on for a few more months, and I can sort of sell a bit of crypto hopefully towards the highs and put more in the Chinese tech stocks. They weren't originally on my sort of long-term stock lists, but yeah, I sort of added them in later on, and yeah, they do have a fair bit of focus from me now. Alex, new president in Peru being anti-mining. Yeah, I've seen quite a few of those. They sort of I've got Pan American Silver as one of my big holdings, and they got sort of they own a large mine in Argentina, but they're not allowed to mine just yet because the country is sort of anti-mining. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of activity potentially in South America. Craig, looking at Apple and Google hopefully dropping after earnings. Yeah, I see a lot of people sort of saying, you know, this year's earnings compared to last year's are going to look bad, even though they're still sort of positive. I guess compare them to 2019's earnings and see how they look. I don't really consider, you know, if they dip a little bit, it's a dip, but still sort of a bit overpriced for me. Obviously they're growing, but I had been sort of saying Apple wasn't growing. They've sort of been flat for a while, but the last sort of 2 or 3 quarters they have sort of had a bit of a blowout on revenue and profit and everything. So yeah, maybe they've started to grow again, but yeah, sort of Google looks okay, sort of 30. Google and Microsoft and everyone are at sort of 30 PEs, and sort of price to free cash flow and that sort of thing. It's okay, but I'm a bit bearish on the US. Don't even hold the S&P 500, so that should tell you what I think of the US. I think sort of pretty much everyone I see has a fair stake in the S&P. So yes, I'm very very defensive. I think of any of them, I would probably say Microsoft maybe deserves the price more than anyone. Seems to be a sort of incredible growth, really. I'd look on macro trends at their sort of last 5 years, 10 years, and yeah, they are growing. It's an expensive price, but it seems to be sort of justified on growth. would we do without the internet or computers? Interesting, yes. Keep an eye on RDHL. Phase 2 and 3 clinical trial on an oral COVID treatment. Oh, I don't really go in on these sort of speculative COVID stocks. I never really got involved in the sort of vaccine race back in the sort of Pfizer versus Moderna versus everyone else days. Yeah, I've got quite a lot of speculative positions, to be honest, anyway. I mean, the whole sort of crypto side obviously is really most of my growth side, so yeah, I'm not going for too many sort of speculative stocks, to be honest. If you've got no crypto, then obviously you're looking for a bit of growth and a bit of speculation in your stocks, so I can understand going for some of this sort of thing, but yeah, I kind of think stocks is the more defensive side for me. It's where crypto profit goes, so I like to sort of keep that a little bit more safe. Opaganib is the drug's name. Yeah, interesting. I'm sure it'll pop at some point and everyone will be talking about it, but yeah, I'm afraid it's not really one for me. You have shit internet, Josh. Interesting. You need BT fibre. The wondrous BT. So what are we at on the fangs at the moment? What we're looking at? Oh, interesting. Look, you can get Granite shares 3x long on the fangs. So how's that doing for the last 6 months? Up, what is that? 80 odds, 85%. Well done them. Can't remember when all these fangs are having their earnings. 1.6% down. Yeah, I mean, 33 on a trailing 12-month PE just seems a little bit horrendous. I know this is the sort of new normal. We've got to accept it because of low interest rates and all the rest of it, but yeah, normally you'd sort of be looking at 20 is a little bit premium and 15 is what you'd be liking to pay. That's 15 sort of long-term average of the S&P. I just think with all the money printing and all the debt, something's got to happen eventually, and maybe when they stop printing, then we'll have a bit of a drop. I don't think Apple's going to drop to 15 PE anytime soon, but yeah, just as I say, it's if you've got no crypto and you want sort of some of the fangs as your growth side, then fair enough. But yeah, I sort of see crypto as the better short to medium term growth side, really. I mean, you can, nothing to say you can't sort of get 50% gains on Apple, but yeah, I'm sort of looking at potentially, it's optimistic, but maybe 3 or 4x, you know, sort of 200-300% on some of the cryptos. So I can't see that happening to any of the fangs in sort of 2 or 3 years, really. So yeah, and I don't really want to have sort of one side crypto and then the other side sort of FANG stocks and tech stocks and that sort of thing, because if we sort of had a downturn, then potentially the whole lot could go. Crypto would take a hit, and the sort of tech stocks would also take a hit. So don't want to lose everything. Josh, can you lend us something to get better internet? Yes. Not quite. My internet's a bit off at times anyway. Any bullion buys? I'm sort of not really all that comfortable buying bullion at these prices, to be honest. Sort of got a reasonable stack of physical, to be honest, mostly silver, some gold, but quite happy to be putting more in the miners. Sort of see the miners as my main gold and silver outlet at the moment. Still waiting for my IG ISA to go through. It's all in polymetal still, unfortunately. Wanting to be spreading that around sort of a group of the other miners, looking at sort of Sandstorm Gold. They were a sort of smallish royalty company. What else? Freeport McMoran, not actually entirely gold, but they do a little bit of gold. Yamana Gold, Kinross Gold, sort of a few really. I think I found about 5 or 6 really that I'm happy to go for, but yeah, the ISA transfer is taking an eternity. It's over 3 months now, I think, or 3 months tomorrow. I think I started the transfer on the 28th of April. So transferring the ISAs is absolutely painful. Oh, you bought a little polymetal today? Yeah, polymetal still look fine. It's just I've got if you see my portfolio videos, I've got about 7,000 in them in trading 212 ISA, and then all of my ISA waiting to transfer over to IG. There's about, 33,000 or something in polymetal. It's a bit overweight. Not really all that comfortable having all that in there. So, Ali, have a look at Jubilee Metals. Interesting. I presume this is a relatively small cap UK one. 399 million. Not too small cap. Do they give much of a little write-up? Exploration, evaluation and mining in South Africa. Ooh, some dodgy countries there potentially. Obviously I've got quite a few stocks in those countries, but yeah. Not all that keen on exploration, to be honest. It's a bit of a sort of a gamble. I had a little bit in Greatland Gold and sort of sold that out for a profit, but yeah, I'm not all that keen on exploration. I take it they don't do a huge amount of actual mining. 82 million in pounds in profit. It's not too bad. Net profit of 30 million. That is a hell of a growth over the last 2 or 3 years. Well, fair enough. Net profit of 30 million is pretty decent for 400 million market cap. Doesn't show up in free cash flow, but some of the figures are a little bit off with some of the smaller caps on Yahoo, but yeah, the income statement certainly seems to tie up. Growing revenue, growing gross profit, growing net profit. Pretty good. As I say, in potentially dodgy countries, but can't complain at that. I've got £6,000 in Sylvania Platinum in South Africa, so that's fair enough. Not a lot of cash. Not really surprising. What else we got? Not a lot of current liabilities. Very little debt. Not a lot of long-term debt either. Yeah, current assets nearly pays off total liabilities. That's pretty good. See that quite a bit with some of these small caps. Yeah, stockholder equity looks pretty good. Yeah, interesting little company. May have to add them to the watch list. Watch list is growing a little bit out of control. I had a look last night. It's 135 stocks on my watch list now. Can't keep up with all of them, obviously, but some of them are just there for a little laugh. Keep an eye on. Yeah, may add this one to the watch list, actually. Hello, Elliot. Thoughts on uranium? It's quite interesting, actually. I do sort of believe in nuclear power as sort of a green-ish alternative. Don't think we can go wind and solar for the whole world, or hydro even. So we do need some sort of fairly big alternatives. Nuclear probably does provide that. You can find something to do with the waste, I guess. It's a hell of a lot of power with basically no sort of CO2 emissions. So yeah, interesting. I think probably very volatile. But yeah, if you can find a reasonable stock in the space, or potentially even an ETF, if you think the sector's going to do well, maybe just buy an ETF, and then you haven't got to sort of worry about individual companies too much. If the sector grows, then you do well. Oh, Simon. A few little questions here. So, why do we hold Sylvania Platinum? I quite like them. It's a lot of they've got a lot of sort of revenue growth, profit growth over the last few years. It's sort of mainly a bet that we're not going to switch to electric vehicles quite as quickly as everyone's thinking. So a lot of people are the platinum, sort of palladium and rhodium are the three metals they mine. Large part of that is used in catalytic converters for cars, but that's petrol and diesel only. So a lot of people, I think, are thinking the demand will die off very, very soon, but I don't think it's going to. There's still China are still buying 25 million vehicles, I think, a year. They're not electric. Some of it's electric, but obviously the vast majority are still petrol and diesel. And there's still going to be there's a shortage of rhodium in particular. So as a small cap, sort of growing their revenue organically anyway, and with a potential sort of upside on platinum, palladium and rhodium, I think they should do well. It's not a lifetime hold, obviously. In sort of 10 years or so, say, then I would expect sort of a good amount of demand to drop off. I think the sort of car demand is about 40%, so don't really want to be losing 40% of demand. So yeah, Sylvania's maybe another year hold, depending on how it rises. I might sort of take some profit and keep a little. Future buys probably is mostly still this lot. If I sort of sell out of my crypto, then a lot of it will be still going into these. Not the REITs mostly, because it's quite difficult to put that into. I'm not wanting to put that in general investment accounts because the tax is a bit annoying. I can have UK house builders and that sort of thing, and Lennar, but not these REITs. So yeah, maybe sort of more of the car companies, more of the sort of food companies. Maybe a bit of energy. Probably some of these tech stocks, as I say, the Chinese tech stocks I still like. Bit of defence, probably more Lockheed Martin. Still not Boeing, Airbus or Rolls-Royce. Those three are still on the sort of long-term watch list, but not really interested in buying. Yeah, that's a fair few. Looking at sort of some others at the moment as well. I've got some in my ISA and Invest account that aren't here, but yeah, they're sort of maybe short to medium term holds. So yeah, that's what I'd be mainly looking to do with my money if we get towards the end of the year. So yeah, Simon and Ali both asking about Chinese companies. So yeah, did sort of touch on those earlier, but I sort of do think it's worth it. I think obviously China want to be the largest economy in the world. I think they're sort of cracking down on some illegal practices necessarily, some sort of shady practices, which I think is quite justified. Some sort of monopolies that weren't really right. Tencent, for example, had 80% of the music streaming rights on sort of locked down exclusive deals. That's not really right. You don't get it in the rest of the world. We sort of have Apple Music and Spotify and Amazon Music and all the rest of them. So yeah, you should be allowed choice, I think. So fair enough for Tencent to get sort of taken down a peg or two. But I think if China want to be the largest economy, then yeah, I don't think they can do it without sort of these big tech stocks. Obviously, America do pretty well with the FANGs. I think China will need sort of similar. So yeah, I think they're sort of putting their foot down a little bit. A lot of people are sort of saying, just reminding everyone who's in charge, but longer term I can't see too much of an issue with it. Got growing middle class in China as they sort of come out of poverty. So yeah, I think most of them can do well, really. Simon, I like the ARKG ETF. Yeah, it's sort of a bit of speculation in the ISA. I can sort of see the space doing well. Sort of interested in stem cell therapy and that sort of thing. I know gene editing and stuff is a bit different, but yeah, longer term I can sort of see it being a promising industry. So it's one industry I don't know a great deal about. It's very difficult to research, so sort of taking a little gamble on ARK and sort of Cathy Wood's picks. Not doing too well at the moment, but do sort of see it as a longer term hold. So quite happy if I sort of said that would be, got it on my my sort of long term holds list on here. So that could be a couple of percent maybe of the overall portfolio. So if I want to up that to maybe sort of 5 to 10 grand, then be quite happy for it to stay low or even drop off more if we have a bit of a crash. I can put some more money into that and up that to sort of 5 to 10 grand and sort of hold it for a reasonable time. One of them, the Intellia Therapeutics, has already sort of rocketed up. I think it's still up 400-500%. So yeah, some of them are going to go bust, I expect, and some of them are going to do really well. Some of them will just do very little for years and years and sort of fade away. But yeah, overall I think the space should do well. So rather than sort of I've seen some people picking individual ones out of it. They'll go with just CRISPR Therapeutics maybe. But yeah, I think I don't know enough about the industry. It's very, as I say, it's very difficult to research. So trying to sort of say, I think CRISPR is going to do better out of all of the rest of them, then just seems a little bit sort of even more gambling than just having the ETF, to be honest. I haven't rebalanced it in a while, to be fair. I expect the actual ARKG ETF looks a little bit different to mine. I tend to sort of rebalance it by adding more rather than sort of selling what's high and buying what's low. iShares Global Clean Energy. Yes, that's another one which, similar to ARC really, I think sort of the space obviously will do well over the years, sort of transfer away from oil and coal certainly. That's going quite quickly, but natural gas probably on the long-term decline. That'll be around a bit longer than oil, but yeah, I think the sort of clean energy stocks should do well. Again, I'm not going to try and pick individual ones a great deal. I also hold Shell, and the idea being that they sort of have enough money still with the oil money to sort of fund the transition towards more clean energy. I expect them to, Shell say they want to do the transition sort of themselves. They don't want to go buying companies outright. They want to sort of build out their clean energy side from scratch near enough. But I would imagine that eventually they might just sort of buy some of the smaller companies. If they don't, I know BP is sort of buying up some companies. So yeah, maybe some of the clean energy stocks will sort of get bought out as a premium valuation. So they should do well. So yeah, it's another one that quite happy to sort of stay low until I get more cash to buy it and hold for a reasonable while. It's still on my long-term allocation, Global Clean Energy. Whether it stays at 5%, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, we'll see for now. Evening Westy. So I think there'll be a kind of crash at the end of this year. I think would like to sort of nail my colours to the mast and say end of this year. Maybe not stocks especially. I think that could carry on for a while if we keep printing and keep sort of low interest rates and everything. I'm not sure really when that will happen. I just like to sort of stay defensive and stay hedged. I think the sort of crypto crash could potentially start the end of this year, depending on how the next few months go. If we sort of have a slow run up in the next few months, sort of towards all-time highs without any sort of real blowout, then yeah, could sort of carry on running into first quarter of 22, maybe sort of March to June time, then it might start a bit of a crash in crypto, but yeah, could happen the end of the year still. Can't really see the stocks sort of crashing a huge amount towards the end of the year though. Could still happen, see what this China sort of sell-off brings. See a lot of stocks have had a little bit of a drop today. Yeah, looking at sort of things like Tesla, I noticed has still sort of been up and down a great deal. $12 down. They sort of had their earnings. It was reasonably positive, and still doesn't really go up. So it's down from last week. Still quite happy that I bought one share at $380 and sold out about $750. So around, can't remember when it was. I think it was just before that that run up to 800 odd, 900 odd. Sold out a little bit early. I think round about in that sort of 750 range. And obviously, yeah, best part of 7 months or more has passed by since then. Yeah, I think I sold out maybe sort of January time. So yeah, looking at 7 months really. It still hasn't gone above those levels. That's why I kind of just think it's got a bit ahead of itself and it's now sort of working through the growth that they are doing until the price seems reasonable again. I mean, even the Yahoo sort of 1 year target estimate is basically where it is now. It's where it was last week. So yeah, they're not exactly giving a bullish sort of 1 year prediction. So yeah, that's why I've never really been a huge fan of Tesla. You probably noticed my portfolio is sort of the anti-Tesla. I've got Stellantis and Volkswagen, Renault and that sort of thing. All sort of companies that I think can do electric vehicles. Don't really agree that Tesla is 5 years ahead of everyone else, as a lot of the sort of fans will say. So yeah, portfolio is kind of going against them a bit. Craig, nice to see Hasbro shot up for you yesterday. You were debating on diving in at 91. You may be disappointed to know I was also looking at them at 91, sorry, and I put them on the long-term list, but never actually bought. So a bit of a shame, that one. I was interested in them as a kind of a cheap sort of Disney alternative. They sort of make the Disney toys and that sort of thing. They got the licenses for all that, and I liked the look of the stock, but it just seemed a little bit too expensive at the time, so I didn't buy, and it's sort of pretty much gone up ever since. So I haven't been able to get in. So yeah, I still don't own a penny of it, unfortunately. But yeah, sort of trailing P of 34. I mean, it's more than the FANGs. What the outlook's like, sort of. So yeah, last year was a little bit rough, but even next year you're sort of looking at over 20. Even for 2022, it's over 20 or just about 20. So yeah, can't really get on board with that. I take it those earnings have been increasing a little. Yeah, not too much. 90 days ago, it was sort of a little bit down on where it is now. Got to take these with a pinch of salt. They are just analysts, but yeah, probably was a little bit of a better buy in the sort of mid-90s to lower 90s, but I didn't go with it, so it'll stay on the watch list. Why is it that baby boomers seem to discredit crypto and say it's the biggest scam of the century? Do they know something the rest of us don't, or is it ignorance and the matter of something completely new? I think the latter, to be honest. People sort of see a lot of people refer to the tulip bubble, sort of forgetting that the tulip bubble lasted 6 months and crypto's been around for the best part of 12 years now. So there's that sort of quashes it pretty much immediately. People call it a sort of a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme, scam type things. Again, Ponzi schemes don't last 12 years generally. There isn't, your sort of classic Ponzi scheme where people are taking in money and sort of paying out earlier investors and then taking in more money and using that to pay out earlier investors. Those sort of, scam type stuff, it can't last 12 years, basically. It lasts a little while. The sort of owners or founders get very rich, and they generally end up selling and buggering off within sort of a year, maybe a year and a half. But yeah, so 12 years in crypto, just can't see it. It's here to stay, I think, with the adoption that it's getting. So yeah, I think sort of a lot of people seem to discredit it just because they don't understand it really. There's nothing physical backing it, but obviously we live in a fairly digital world now. There's nothing nothing physical backing up the credit card in your wallet or the debit card. So this is just an evolution of that. Hello, Mr. P. Hope everyone's well. Yeah, all good. All good. Find the channel very inspirational. Helps to motivate you to build your own snowball portfolio. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I hope it does help some. Have to sort of practice good patience. We're not in sort of pump and dump hype coins and hype stocks and that sort of thing. Seen too many people sort of get burnt by the sort of unfortunate, not wanting to name any names, but unfortunately people like Stockmo and sort of all them lot going for Workhorse and sort of Lordstown Motors. A lot of the EV type stuff is sort of pumped up, and a lot of them sold out. Some of them crashed, and then they sold out at the bottom. And yeah, the sort of followers, some of these guys have got 500,000 followers, and a lot of them would follow them into these stocks and then lose a load of money. But yeah, so it's unfortunate. I'll try and stay sort of as grounded as possible. But yeah. Well, so are we 7 minutes past 9? So hang around for a bit longer and maybe call that a night. We heard about a UK investor called Lord John Lee, known as the first UK millionaire. Everyone talks about Buffett, but you picked up some good tips from him. Oh, we'll have to have a look. Lord John Lee. Yeah, I'll take a look later on. I do sort of have to chuckle at some of the Warren Buffett quotes that people sort of roll out. I know obviously he's had a very good long-term record, but people sort of quote his 20% average annual return. A lot of that is sort of made in the early days when he had a very small fund. You look at the sort of recent performance, sort of kind of underperforming the S&P 500 even for quite a while. So it's not quite as good. It's very difficult with a sort of a fund that size probably to outperform. But yeah, I think sort of a little bit overblown sometimes. And people love to quote his diversification video and post his sort of video on that, sort of saying that you can do extremely well holding 3 stocks for your whole life, or sort of half a dozen stocks. Yeah, when he holds sort of 45 to 50 public companies himself. Not saying he can hold 3 because he has his limitations. Some he doesn't want to own more than sort of 10% on some stocks, so they're fixed. But I do sort of point out, like he bought 3 pharmaceutical stocks. I think he bought Merck and sort of, I can't remember whether he bought Johnson & Johnson and AbbVie and that sort of thing. So nothing to stop him sort of putting 4 or 5 billion into one of those rather than sort of 1.5 billion into each. That sort of smacks to me of diversification, which he says is for the ignorant, essentially. If he already owns 45 stocks, why does he need to buy 3 more pharmaceuticals rather than just pick the best one? So, yeah, just don't seem to think he practices what he preaches, to be honest. Obviously, he's got an incredible record, but yeah, I do think there's sort of people that basically do what they say a lot more out there. People like Stanley Druckenmiller and sort of Ray Dalio and people like that. You can see exactly what they're doing, and they tend to sort of be truthful in what they're doing. Right, so I'll probably leave it there. Thank you guys for coming. Good to have a chat in volatile times. So see where we go in the next few months. Maybe give it sort of 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll do another live stream. Have a chat. Just give it another minute. Just see if there's any more questions. Check how the old Bitcoin's doing. Pushing 38,000 again. Not too bad. Sort of where it pumped to initially, really, yesterday morning. We sort of had a run to 40, I think, probably on the Amazon news, and then it sort of came out that it weren't happening. So, yeah, not too bothered about that. Happy investing, everyone. Yes, happy investing, Mr. P. And everyone. So, okay, I shall head off. See you guys soon, and good luck all.